Welcome to the Stanford Lee Show. This week, a woman's revenge. We grew up with stories of genies and magic, and it's kind of like one of those things. But there's some stories that go deeper into lore and are a lot more. I guess the word for it would be chilling. I was looking at stories about spirits and jinn, and I didn't realize that they weren't just kind of like our ghosts and demons, that they were something different. And so this story brings us to Morocco. During a time, they had a conflict with the Portuguese. This conflict, there was, during wartime, you have like a lot of stories and a lot of things. I think that they're maybe a form of propaganda or intrigue. And one of those was the story of Kandisha. And in this legend, she's a beautiful woman. She appears near water, near rivers and near oceans and streams. And she can be very seductive with her long black hair and her piercing stare. Many men were seduced by her, and also when they find out that she's an old hag, it's too late. The spirit, if you will, that during the conflict with the Portuguese was thought of also as kind of like a guerrilla fighter that would lure men in. Just when it was too late, she would dispose of them. And I think that it also parallels other stories. There's stories that say that she's Lilith, that she's taking revenge for her children that were murdered, or she's been compared to Astarte or other legends and myths. But one of the consistent things is that usually the story goes back to her being a seductive woman that, how do I say this? Yeah, we can cut this, it's hilarious, but no. I mean, she towers over men. And you look at her, and she's a hoofed creature, and terrifying. Some of you may laugh, but think of the legends in our mythology, with the Greeks and the Romans, and some of those monstrosities. What makes this story even better is that music is actually a form of exorcism. And that people that are possessed by this spirit, by this demon spirit, they've been known to go to priests that practice a kind of magic and music to be able to drive out this spirit. I say spirit, it's also considered a jinn, and sometimes the translations I understand between how we understand demons and spirits in Western mythology and religion in the East can sometimes be different, sometimes be confusing. It's intriguing to think of driving out a spirit by music. Okay, so those of us that were raised, I don't know, with heavy metal, think of, it's more like our parents were concerned about spirits coming into us through music rather than being able to use music to drive out spirits. So I find that interesting. I think what we understand is that music moves us, and it transforms our soul and our being. And it's a magic, and it's a magic in itself, and it takes us places, and it can take us to well-lit places or very dark places where we stand near those river banks on the edge of danger. Thinking of approaching a theme like this as music, it would be kind of corny, I guess, to, write a song. Maybe, writing songs about things like this is just corny. I don't want to use corny in this video. It's too much like candy corns. I don't know. Some of my favorite horror movies, it's not that the music is necessarily so composed so greatly, it's that sometimes it's the space in there, it's the choice of sounds. Or what I like about some of the music of movies that I like Phantasm or the John Carpenter movies that are so great, is it could just be a droning note, or you can't really tell a difference between the music and the atmosphere. It could just be something simple, but it's captivating. I think that we too often rely on our tools. We get into our computers and put our headphones on, or go into our studios and try to create grandiose things, and sometimes it's just those sounds that captivate us and take us somewhere. It could be percussion, it could be just a droning note on a keyboard or a guitar, or some instrument that you wouldn't usually choose in your, kind of imaginary 5-piece band, if you will. And I wanted to explore that with Kandisha. I mean, how can you portray a spirit and not be cliche, I guess, like go into the, typical cliches about something like that. I wanted to share something with you. So I want you to hear the final result, but this is how I put together some music for this in the studio. So imagine you're looking around for sounds and atmosphere. That's what I did. Yeah, I've had those things like there are those sample collections or arcade or something like that. I try not to use that stuff. I try to look around for things. I've got like the oldest tambourine. I found this in a box in my junk. It's rusty. I mean, it's tarnished, so it actually sounds tarnished. This is a tarnished sound. You hear that? Yeah, I think I can even see the tarnish crumbling off it, like the rubber's old, like it's crumbling in my hand. I've got these wooden shells. They're from some kind of, I don't know, some kind of nut that grows somewhere. But it's actually really loud. You hear how loud that is? I mean, that could be, how cool is that? Scraping and dragging sound. I was at a drum circle. I got rained out when I was at the Renaissance Fest and picked up these bells. And I tell you, this ocarina with some reverb, it's outstanding. Imagine hearing that walking by the river at night. Getting a Moroccan feel to a beat, it's kind of like this. When I did it in the studio, drums didn't work, and I had a setup to where I could play the drum with one hand and then the keyboard part with the other, and then come in with the bell, so it's kind of like this. You're probably wondering about this bell. During the recording of this, it's an outstanding recording, by the way, I have one hand playing the keyboard, another hand playing the drum, and crossing over and playing the tongue bell here. Oh, what do they call this? A steel tongue thing? Yes, a tongue drum. Yeah, steel tongue drum. I think this works well playing things in C. I know, just the setup of it. It's really cool. But yeah, that's kind of my approach, just putting different things together, creating a musical palette out of found musical objects. Think about those movies that thrill you and scare you for Halloween. It's not just the big orchestras, it's those little sounds, those things in the background, those things that are kind of between music and something else. And I'd like to share with you Kandisha. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to you. And while you're enjoying the channel, give us a like and subscribe. It really helps. And look at our social media. If you're into guitars and the stuff that I'm into, you're into, check us out. And I'll see you next time on the Stanford Lee Show.